So let me please welcome Phil Bedford to the stage.
Thanks a lot, mate.
Looking forward to it.
Morning. In 1996, I'm in a car with my wife and a young lady who's a lawyer working for an oil and gas company. And we're just driving back from Moscow to the airport. And the young lady asked me, what do you do for a living? So I told her I teach business networking. She goes, oh, so what do you actually teach? And I said, well, I specialize in working with either small business owners who are looking to get more clients, or, I teach business development to sales teams. And she went, that's interesting. I said, why? She said, I've never thought of using networking to get clients. I said, well, what do you use networking for? She said, to get my next job. And my aha was what people use networking for. So what I want to do today is just look at this powerful word. Now, I looked up what are the top skills we need in business. And this is what Google threw out at me. Would you agree that they're the top ones that you've had? How many of these do your company currently invest in their staff to help them become more efficient, more effective? Do you invest in all of those? Not enough? But my guess is you probably invest in the majority. How many people here have ever invested in themselves or their business to learn how to network more effectively? 3 hands. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to today share something with you that really I think is beautiful. And it's something you can either choose to take away or not. But hopefully you're going to get some great ideas on how, number 1, you can enjoy work more. Number 2, enhance your career progressions. And number 3, maybe even drive a little bit more business towards your hotels. Would that be okay? Super. I also thrive on energy, so if you feel like saying something, please do it. All right. The definition of networking from a gentleman called Dr. Ivan Misner is this. Now, I actually I was on LinkedIn the other day, and I reached out to a gentleman on LinkedIn, and I said, hey, how'd you like to come networking with me? Come and actually meet some people. And he says, no, I don't network. And I had to bite my tongue. Because ultimately, he's saying to me, I don't have a family, I don't have friends, and I don't have work colleagues. Networking is any time we have a relationship with another human being. But what we extrapolate from that and how we serve them depends on our mindset. So as we go through today, I challenge you to get involved. And hopefully walking out of here today, you're going to take away some great skills. So what can networking do for us? I'm just going to break this down as we go through and just hopefully open our minds a little bit more to the different potentials there are from this word. And if you don't want to use the word networking, think about the word relationships. For a lot of people, what is networking? Meeting people and doing what? Connecting with them. How many people here really get excited by the word networking? And how many people here are like, oh, no thanks. And the main reason is most people, when they go networking, they're not networking at all. What they're doing is cold calling face to face. They're handing out business cards. Hey, here's my business card. Having a quick conversation and moving on to the next person. That's not networking. That's handing out business cards. The power, the potential is what happens next. So I'm going to share some ideas with you. Right, one benefit of networking, what I say, is there's only 2 ways to get clients. Anyone tell me what they are? Spend money or get them for free. There's 2 ways to solve problems. You can spend money or get advice for free. So the great thing about this thing called relationships is it can make our lives so much easier. So let's just have a look at some of the different ways you can use networking. How many of you currently got the job you have today through a contact? Wow. How many people got the job you have today through a recruitment company? Okay, there's some people not going to put their hand up no matter what I say, right? There was a study by Mark Grenovator back in the 70s. And what he wanted to do was actually look at how connected people were and where jobs came from. And so he did the study, and at the end of it, the majority of people came from, most of the people got their jobs from people they knew. Is anyone surprised about that? Not really. Okay, not an agency, people they knew. But what surprised them was of the 56% that got their jobs through contacts, the largest majority of those jobs came from people they did not know well. And the reason being, and what we're going to start to look at today, a lot of people know people, but they're very narrow in the amount of people they know. And if you're very narrow in the amount of people you know the same people, you know the same opportunities, you have the same information. Correct? Judith sent me a quote the other day. Judith from Black Coral sent me this beautiful quote, and it was from the fitness industry. And it was, if I say this correctly, Judith, when I network with people in my industry, I learn 10%. When I network with people from outside my industry, I learn 110%. I'll let that sit with you for a second. So if we're looking for promotion, who promotes us? Bosses, right? Normally, yeah? Or the partner in the business, yeah? You promote yourselves. Okay, self-promotion. I'm thinking of promotion in your actual job position, right? Bosses and them help promote us when we do a good job, when we feel good, when they like us. Would that be fair to say? When we make them look good. So this is also networking. Your relationship with your boss. Your relationship with your subordinates. Can your subordinates sabotage you if they don't like you? Absolutely. So it's about respect, correct? Recruitment, we can get a job. So we can go to a recruitment agency and pay them to do this, or we can hopefully know people and employ good people. How many of us have ever employed someone we know because we know they're going to do a good job? 100%. Why would I risk going to Google Bubba and finding somebody out there that I don't know, or a recruitment company? I go to people I know because I know they're going to make me look good. Network. Okay. The other place we can use our network is customers. How many companies here have actually done sales training? I think I heard something earlier on about doing some training for sales. How many in the room have done sales training? Good, there's a few gaps there still. Yeah, and your staff do sales training as well, correct? 100%, excellent. Now, here's a study. I actually went to a couple of my friends in the hotel industry, and I said, can you tell me, please, where your customers are currently coming from? Which channel of marketing? Is it digital? Is it referral? Is it advertising on a rate? Can you tell me, please? The answer, across the board, no. Do you think if we want more clients, we need to know what channels are working? Simple study, right? If I'm putting my money here, I want to know it's working. So, customers. If we can get customers. How many people in your business? How many people do you employ? Hundreds in your hotels? What if each one of them could bring in a corporate client? I'm not just thinking one hotel room, but a corporate client. What would that mean to your business? But we don't think about our staff. I had a client, he got a massive deal because the cleaner in his business happened to be cleaning the office of somebody else. And in a conversation he'd had with the cleaner introduced him to a company that was worth like $500,000 dirhams. Everybody is connected. It just depends whether they're motivated and knowledgeable enough to be bothered to help us. But who does that start with if we want to start doing that? You, correct. And here's the thing, most people can't be bothered. We've got our job, we do our job, and that's it. So hopefully we'll open our mind a little. And I get that, by the way. I completely get that. I used to do it as well. Suppliers. If you want a decent supplier, who do you go to? People you know, right? I'm sure a chef isn't going to go to a supplier that's going to provide him with a bad product. So this is how we can pay, we can find them, we can use trust. That's part of your network. Problem solving. Who do you go to when you need a solution? When you have a problem, who do you go to? Friends, maybe, yeah? What about other people in your industry that you know, like, and trust, who you know can give you great advice? The thing is, the most influential people are the ones with all the information. They know what's happening before anybody else. So the ability to use your network to get information on what's happening in the industry, this here is a fantastic network. I can only imagine the amount of knowledge in this room. How many people in this room, in this network, do you not know yet? How much information's there? So again, when we share information with people we know, like, and trust. We'll give you some tips on how we can do that in a second. And the last one is support. When you need help, who's going to help you? By the way, the people on Facebook are not your friends. Just saying. If you want to test it, ask for a lift to the airport. See who turns up for the lift to the airport, right? So I remember a friend of mine, a gentleman called BJ Shah, and I was getting married, and I had all my family here, and I had 2 cars, but we had 20 or 30 guests. And he said, where are you going? He says, well, we're going to go to the Musandam. We got a little hotel. We're going to go out in the Dow's. If you haven't done the Musandam yet, you've got to do it. It's one of the hidden treasures of the world. So we get to the Musandam, and he says, how are you going to get there? I says, well, we've got 2 cars, but we haven't got enough cars. He said, Phil, take my car. Really? He says, yeah, take my car. I'll make sure the insurance is done. Take my car and just bring it back. I remember that to this day. He didn't have to offer me the car. So here's the other thing. When he gives me the car, how do you think I gave it back to him? Washed, full tank of petrol, and a present. When we help people, when we do stuff for things, when we ask for favors, how are we looking after the relationship of that person? When somebody helps us, when they introduce us to someone, when they give us a referral, it's our job to make sure we look after their reputation. Because if we mess up, if we don't do a good job, if we make them look bad, they won't help us again. It's like giving back the car dirty with no fuel. Is he ever going to lend me the car again? Absolutely not. So how are we looking after these relationships? How are we nurturing them? So every relationship we have, one of our jobs is to surround ourselves with as many people as possible who are reliable, trustworthy, effective, efficient. How much easier is your life going to be if those are the people around you? So what I want you to do is just imagine for a second. Imagine an empty room. Right? You can close your eyes if it works for you. By the way, I loved the mindset stuff earlier on. Close your eyes if you want. Imagine an empty room. And I'm talking about you now, your life, right? The business is one thing, but you. In that room is everything you want for you, your family, your kids, the people you care about, your retirement. Everything is in that room. Now, on the front of the room is a door. And that's got a one-way door. Which means anybody that now comes into that room is in there for the rest of your life. Who would you have in your room? The people around us, I was talking to a young lady earlier on, and she said to me, we're the average of the people we hang around. Who do all the troublemakers hang around at school? Who did the rich kids hang around at school? Who did the smart kids hang around at school? Who do the rich people hang around now? Who do the troublemakers hang around now? We become the average of the people we're around, or we seek it out. So one of the things we can need to do is network up. And when we fill our room, how about filling it with our room with people that want to help us, people that want to contribute to us, that get excited by your success? Are we doing that with purpose, or are we just leaving it to chance? Now, if you have a job, if you have a business, a lot of that is decided by you. but you can also recruit people with the right mindset, with the right attitude, who help lift you up. Now, here's a question. Whose room are you in? Who are you helping? Because if it's all about us, there's nobody listening. Now, let's have a look at something else. I love this quote. So I've touched on what's in it for you in terms of information support, but how about earning business? How about growing more clients, getting more clients? I'm not always just talking about getting one more client in your restaurant or one more client in your hotel room. I'm talking about how can you go and get corporates to bring 100 people into a hotel? Would that be a good thing to be talking about today? So I'm going to introduce you to a gentleman. Does anybody know the chef Jose Andres? Jose Andres. He's one of the resident chefs in the Royal Atlantis. Okay? Every time there's a disaster in the world, he turns up with he runs a thing called the World Food Kitchen. And basically every time there's a disaster, he turns up with a kitchen and feeds. He's just been in Ukraine, he's just been in Israel, every time Haiti, all this. This is his brother. This is Mariano. And Mariano used to be the general manager of Seville's at Wafi City. I've known Mariano for, oh my golly, 20-something years now. And, okay, I'll let you into a secret. You may not know this, but I used to teach salsa. I've taught salsa for nearly 30 years. I've danced in Cuba, America, Australia, South America, Peru. I even danced on the Inca Trail once, but I didn't have any music. I don't look like it, I know, but that should give you hope. If you can look like me and dance, anybody can dance. So anyway, when I first met Mariano, somebody recommended that I did salsa classes in his restaurant. So I don't know, has anyone ever been to Seville's at Wafi City? Many, many years ago, it used to be the place to go to, Wafi, and now it's not so much. You know, it's all moved. So do you think they have trouble maybe getting people through the door? How many hotels are there in the UAE? You guys should be able to tell me. How many hotels? Yeah? So how many restaurants is that? Many. 6,000, something like that? 8, 6,000? 8? Right. How much money have you got to spend to get someone in that restaurant? With all that competition? A ton, right? Mariano's pretty smart. Not only is he Spanish, but he was involved with the Spanish Business Council. So when he ran an event, he could literally get the whole council in there, as opposed to another hotel. He leveraged his network. But he said to me, Phil, how about you come and teach salsa in my restaurant? Okay, I won't charge you anything. In fact, what I'll do is I'll give everyone a free drink. So I taught salsa. I was there for nearly 20 years, I suppose on and off. But what I wanted to do is I actually sat down one day and I thought, you know what? He's been really clever. Because every week I was marching people into his restaurant and he was spending nothing on marketing and advertising. Once they know about the place, what do? There's every chance they talk to their friends and there's every chance they come back. Repeat business. Tell your friends. But the secret is how do you get them through your door? Correct? He used me. So I sat down one day and I thought, okay, let's just have a calculation. On average, over the years, how many brand new people have I taken to Seville's and they've never been there before? $80,000 people. And I said to Mariano, guess what, mate? You must love me. I brought you 80,000 people. He said, Phil, way more. No money spent. I marched him through the door. And by the way, he never paid me. He's my mate. He's my friend. Yeah? This is like original influencing, isn't it? These days, people will go and pay influencers for a little post on Instagram, and it has value, I suppose. But there's nothing that can beat an individual that can stand in front of a group of people and say, let's go. How are we leveraging that? So here's the thing. Can you make yourself into that kind of influence? If you can become the center of a network, you can get things done a lot quicker. You become influential. But here's the thing. To get that network to help you, what have you got to do? You've got to help others. So we're going to touch on that now. Let's look at the power of communities for 1 minute. How many people do you think you know? We just don't think about this sometimes, do we? How many people do you actually know? I'll come back to the Dunbar number in a moment. But I'm going to say a well-networked person will probably know about 250 people. Between 150 and 250 people. That's just you. All right? At different levels, absolutely. So I'll do the Dunbar number, like I said, a little bit later on. But just think about this for 1 minute. You know about 250 people. Now, in your work, how many people in your work? Let's say just 40 people. All right? Now let's have a look at your friends. It'll pop up in a second. You think about your different. So what I'm doing, I'm looking at 3 networks here. What is a network? Networking, a network, and your network are 3 different things. A networking group is where a group of people communicate on a regular basis around a common theme. That's a rugby club, that's a book club, that's a knitting club, that's here. So, if I now look at this 4th group, so there we got another network. So what is the potential of your work network, your social network, and this network? If you need anything done, would it be fair to say that if I'm only looking at, let me just think of an example here. Okay, so if I'm just looking at, let's say, Mona, right? And if I'm looking at Mona, and I'm trying to sell to Mona, she might buy from me, not buy from me, correct? If I want something from her, it might be able to help me or not help me. If I ask for advice, she might be able to help me or not help me. But if she knows 250 people, do you think somebody behind her might be able to help me, buy from me? So how do I get to that 250 people? She has to want to help me. She has to have interest in me. So let's look at how we make that happen. But I just want to look at the power and the process of leveraging relationships. So if I take just that 40, that's 10,000 people that I have access to, 1 billion relationships, just from 3 networks. And how are we getting access to these people normally? We're throwing money at it. What's the potential that's just sat there to solve problems, get things done, get clients? And by the way, how many other networks are you in? What is the potential for you? So here's the thing. Some of us are sitting here going, yeah, I know all this. I've got networks. I know if ever I need it, I can tap into it. But what's the reality? There was a study called the Small World Study. Can I ask you, have you ever heard of this 6 degrees of separation? Hands up if you've heard of the 6 degrees of separation. Okay, so at least half the room has not. They made a film out of it with Will Smith. Basically, the concept of the 6 degrees of separation is everybody in the world is connected by 6 connections. Right? So if I want to get to, if you want to get to, let's say, Richard Branson, by the time you've gone through 6 connections, you could get there. So a lot of people tend to be a little bit complacent about the power of their network. What's the reality? So the Small World Study, it was done in the 70s, and what they wanted to, the 50s. And what they said is, okay, let's have a look at how connected people really are. What is your reality? So what they did is they basically sent a letter from one side of the States over to the East Coast. They did a number of these little studies, but they sent the letter across, and in there was a way of tracking. This is a couple of years ago. They tracked it. But what they wanted to see was out of all the messages that were sent, they wanted to get them to one person. But in there, they were sent to random people with instructions on how they did this. So they sent 160 messages. Can you imagine what percentage of these messages never arrived at the person they were supposed to meet? Okay. So 71% of the messages that were sent never got there. 71% of the messages that went. So because what we're asking people is, based on your contacts, based on the people you know, to pass it to someone who's influential, it passes and then stops. Okay? Which means that only 29% of people are actually connected enough. We believe we're connected, but in reality, we're not. Because a lot of us are like this in our jobs, in our companies, in our careers. We have our 10 friends, our 6 people we sit next to in the business, and that's it. Now, the interesting thing is, they called it the 6 degrees of separation because that was the average that it arrived out of these 29 people. So some people made it in 2 steps. Some people made it in more, but the average was 6. But the most interesting thing is a large percentage of people that did it in 2 steps. Would you call these master networkers? These are people that can get anything done by their contacts. We can choose to do that or not. Now, they decided to redo it because the world's changed. Now we've got digital marketing, we've got LinkedIn, we've got social media. And they did it a couple of years ago, and guess what? The numbers stayed the same. Why? People couldn't be bothered to do it. They may have had the connections, but they just kind of couldn't be bothered, and it just amazed them. So the question is, can you be bothered to build your network? And here's the thing. You may not need it now because we got a great job. Everything's great. But does anyone ever warn you when there's an emergency going to happen, or you're in trouble, or you have an accident, or you need a lawyer, or something happens to your family, or you suddenly got to do this, or suddenly do that? Nobody ever tells you this is coming. You don't get a warning. You got 24 hours to get ready. It hits you. So build the roof before it rains. Contribute to your network. Select people. Give, so when you need help, it comes. Build your roof before it rains. And one of the challenges I would suggest is because many people here have a very well-deserved, very powerful position, we believe we have that network. But I challenge you. My question is, whose network is it really? The position you have, whose network is it really? Is it yours, or is it your position? Is it the brand of the company, or is it yours? I cannot tell you how many people I've worked with. So I'm currently working with the ex-COO. He worked in Donata. And I've worked with other people of ex-C-suite. And one of the things they said to me was, Phil, it's amazing. I had this great position. And at some point in my life, I decided to become my own consultant. Now, some people here may never do that. Okay, and some people here may choose to do that at some point in the future. But my message is the same whether you choose to or not, because it's still a network. It can still be leveraged in your position or not. And what they realized was, when they stepped out of that position, all the people that they used to say, jump, and the staff would jump, they say, how high? Suddenly those people were like, not returning phone calls. I see a few of you nodding, you might have experienced it. Didn't bother. Because guess what? They had a new boss, and they had to be nice to the new boss. Their network, gone. And the guy from Donata, one of his biggest ahas was, his whole network was in the airline industry. And he left there and became a consultant using the same skills he'd used there, but not in the airline industry because he'd had enough. And after 30 years in Dubai, he said, Phil, I don't have a network. I actually don't know anyone. It was already raining. So, has anyone here ever heard of, or do you listen to WIIFM? No, never heard of it? Well, listen, you've heard of it, haven't you? I can see you nodding. WIIFM stands for What's in It for Me. And every single person on the planet listens to that. When you meet someone at a networking event, when you're sat next to someone at work, when you're out having a meal, everybody's listening to What's in It for Me. Why should I talk to you? What's in it for me? Are you helping me hit my goals? What's in it for me? If I'm talking to you, do I get to help you? What's in it for me? Everybody. So one of the secrets, and this is where we're going to start to look at how we can build these relationships, not just know the benefit of it. How can we actually start to do this? Let's have a look at some tips for that. So the first tip, listen more than we talk. Every single network on the planet, every single human being has 2 ears and 1 mouth, and we should use them proportionately. We've all met somebody that when we say hi, they do nothing but just talk at you for 3 minutes. Would that be fair to say? They just talk at you. Are you interested in helping them? What do you want to do? Escape, right? So this is why a lot of people don't like networking, because they'll go to an event like this, they'll hand out their business card, and then they'll just go, bleh. This is what I do. This is how good I am. This is this. This is that. And if you're lucky, they'll ask you what you do. When you let somebody talk about themselves, do they like you more or less? More. This is the thing, right? That even though we're not talking about ourselves, by letting the other person talk, they like us more. So, one suggestion. By the way, anyone that's done sales training, the same thing. 2 ears, 1 mouth. So number one, that's my first suggestion. But when you do use your mouth, we need to ask people, obviously, things about them. But what we're looking for is to get people to like us. How do you get people to like you, to want to help you? Smile, lovely. What happens if I buy you a cup of coffee? Ooh. We need to go for coffee. So, if I buy you a cup of coffee, particularly if you like coffee, you sit down and buy me a cup of coffee. What does a decent human being want to do next time we meet? Buy me a coffee back. This is what we call reciprocity. If I'm going to give and help you, as a human being, you want to give back. By the way, if the person you're talking to never gives back, do you want them in your room? No, go and let your competition have them. Let somebody else have them, because they only care about themselves. So, imagine now I've bought you 2 cups of coffee. I helped you with a referral for your business. And so far, you haven't managed to give me a favor back. How do you feel as a decent human being? Do you start to think, oh, do you know, I really need to pay back? This is just fun. It's not me asking, it's just you as a human being. So here's the thing. One day, when I'm having my emergency, or I need help, or I need an introduction, and I've done all these things for you, I've got credit. It's an emotional bank account. So when I ask for help, you're going to be, oh yeah, no problem. Do you want my car? Can I buy you a meal? Can I introduce you? Can I give you a lift? Anything. Anything for me. So the thing is, are we doing this as human beings? Mona stood up here earlier on and she just said that she was trying to take HS and I to Doha, looking for a volunteer. Is that a good thing to volunteer for? Absolutely. Because number one, you become visible, but that is massive giving. One of the secrets to being well networked is to give of your time in a way that serves a community. Because you become visible, you become credible, people owe you. It serves you, serves the community, but also it's a lovely way of building your network. How many people here know who Mona is because she stood up here? Okay. Look around the room. How many people do you know? Maybe not a lot, because there's a couple of people who've become visible. So if I asked you, who is the president of the United States, can you tell me? Biden. Right, good. Who's the VP? Oh, good. Secretary of State? Starting to get a few less answers coming out now, right? Someone's here going, who cares? Okay, but here's the thing. That's arguably the most visible network on the planet. And we can only mention 3 people. 2 maybe, definitely 1. The most visible network on the planet. So if we want to build our network, if we want to become visible and credible, we need to step up. And we need to step up in a way that serves other people. In your job, you're getting paid for that. You're visible because you're getting paid. But the question is, how can we become visible and serve in a different dynamic? That's why so many people do charities. It serves them, serves the world. So how do we leave an impression? How do we leave an impression on people's hearts so that when we need it, they'll help us? But because we enjoy it. What kind of things can you do to leave an impression? Excuse me? I love it. So when I meet you, find ways to become memorable. It's not just about your job. Most people will be interested, but they'll forget you the minute they walk away. How do you become memorable? You share something about yourself. Okay? So when you're talking, what kind of things could you say that's a little bit different? This is the skill of being memorable I'm talking about now. Leave an impression? So, by the way, you can ask someone, how did they get involved in the hotel industry? Tell me a story about how you helped a client. Dress in a way that's memorable. But also, can we leave a bad impression? Yeah? So we need to decide what impression we want to leave as well, because you will leave an impression. And here's the interesting thing. Positive word of mouth. Have you ever heard of the word of mouth factor? Do a good thing. How many people will know about it? 3 to 5, depending on the stats. If you do a bad thing, how many people will know about it? It's actually 66. Good 3, 66 bad. That was before the internet. Now, of course, here we have to be a little bit careful, but in the rest of the world, they don't care. Yeah, going viral. So just think about that. But also your personal brand. Everything you do, you have a personal brand on Facebook, in your personal networks, the way you make people feel. People don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. So when we've met all these people, how do we stay in touch with them? So what I recommend, this is a tip for today. Okay, when you take a business card, when you have a conversation, it can stop there or it can carry on. And the way it carries on is for you maintaining a relationship. All your best friends in life, your friends, everybody, did you meet them just once? No, you met them again. And you got to know them better and you did things for each other. You spent time with them. It's the same in business. Yeah? So one way of staying in touch is to stay memorable. How often has somebody you know bought from a competitor and you're there going, and why did they go to someone else? Because they forgot about you and someone else turned up. So, here's some tips for you. It should come up on the wall in a second. Well, whoever we meet, a great idea is with their business card, follow up, send them a message within 24 hours. Lovely to meet you. Look forward to seeing you again. But the secret to follow up is not to sell. It's just based on your conversation. Whatever you talked about, follow up. You might have talked about tennis. Lovely to meet you talking about tennis. We talked about our hotel. Lovely to meet you. You said you could advise me on this. I'd love to have a coffee and talk about it. Follow up. Anyone here follow up regularly with everybody they meet? You can say yes or no, or just think it in your head if you want. But here's the thing. When someone sends you that message, there's even less people that reply and say you're welcome. How's that starting a relationship? Yeah? Okay, 7 days, you connect on social media. Are you connected on LinkedIn? What happens when we're connected on LinkedIn? There's more chance they don't forget us. And they see a professional thing. And the other thing is within 1 month, if you have to have a meeting, have a meeting. But of course, we don't do this with everybody. What we do is we filter the people we need to see. But the great thing with social media is you can still be connected even if it's not important now. Sometime down the line, they'll remember you and you're in their visibility. Social media is brilliant for this. So how is your social media at the moment? If I go to your LinkedIn, what does it look like? You yourself, not the business. How is your personal brand on LinkedIn? Cool? Or needs a bit of work? Good. Excellent. This is a real one. Somebody trying to do business. Do you think I might employ this person, do work with them? Or would I have more chance of doing business with this guy? So our personal brand is everywhere these days, and it impacts our business as well. We represent a company, so it's part of that dynamic, correct? Who would I be more inclined to do business with? Absolutely this guy. This is my colleague in Ireland. The other dynamic is, are we doing any networking online? Are we doing Zoom calls? How are we turning up? I was amazed during COVID. People were turning up with washing in the back, the bed behind them. I'm like, you got your bed behind you? What are you trying to tell me? Yeah? Do we consider the background? Because that's part of our business brand as well. Just worth thinking about. I wrote a book about this called You're on Mute, because we're representing our business even on Zoom. Go-to meeting. So when we've met all these people, how are we keeping track of all these people we met? So you can use CRM systems. If you have a CRM in your business, it could even be Outlook. Keep track of people. Make notes of where you met them. Personal notes, reminders. The lady that had the leopard skin top that came from Hawaii, whatever. We talked about this, we talked about that. Keep notes, because 3 months down the line, you'll be like, business card? Gone. This is what I talked about earlier on the Dunbar number. This is your network as it stands today. Each one of us will know a couple of people, very close friends. There'll be the people we work with. There'll be close friends. The potential, the 150 up to the 1,500, is the other part of our network. And in there is going to be a ton of people for your room. So before I go any further, I'm going to give you a quick exercise. If you can turn around to the person next to you, ideally somebody you don't know. I want the person next to you. For those people maybe not listening at the moment, if you can turn to the person next to you, what I want you to do, I'm just going to give you 2 minutes. 1 minute, all right? You got 1 minute, and you're going to tell the person as much. If there's 3 of you, either just go as a 3. Right? We'll make it work. Okay? Turn to the person next to you. You've got 1 minute, and you're not allowed to talk about work, but you have to tell them as much as possible about yourself as you can. So, if you like films, what kind of films? If you like books, what kind of books? If you've been on a holiday, you love traveling, what was your favorite destination? Where do you want to go? Be as specific as possible, yeah? Dig, yes. Okay, so I'm going to give you 1 minute. You can choose who goes first. And then if there's 3, if there's 3 of you, there's somebody right there, and there's 3 there. Yeah, you got 1 minute, and then you'll swap, okay? So when I say swap, I'll go shh, and then you swap, okay? Ready? Go. Just turn around. That gentleman there. Tap him on the shoulder. There you go. Behind you. Okay, other person, 1 minute. Other person, 1 minute. Okay, thank you. Okay, we're back, thank you. Yeah, we had 3 people. It's just for the effect, sorry. Can we get a photo of that? Okay, guys, if you can please pause. Stop networking, you troublemakers. Thank you. Thank you. Hello. Hello. Thank you. I like to stay on time, so if you can pause. Okay. Shh. Okay, just quickly, was there anyone talking to a stranger who you found a connection with, something in common? What was that, please? So you traveled to the same country? The same concept? Oh, to know the cultures? You found it? That's good. Anyone else got a real bond? I did this the other day, and 2 people actually sat next to each other, came from the same village. Anybody? Go on, don't be shy. I cannot believe it. Hoteliers that are shy? Come on. What's next? Oh. Okay. Interesting. What's next? So here's the question. Do you particularly know necessarily what the other person does for business? Right. If you're sat next to someone you already know, why are you sat next to them? Just a thought. Okay, but here's the thing. When you bond on something personal, would you be more inclined to help them if they asked? Yes. But you didn't just talk about business, you just talked about who they were as a human being. You can be the best in the world at what you do in your business. You can have a good job, you can do a great job, you can earn money, but people don't care. They care when they know who you are. And the more you can help them, the more they're going to care. And what a great world it can be if we had a bit more caring going on. We know what's happening out there. A little bit more caring, a little bit more helping each other. It could be an even better place. So my last thought for you as I finish is this. This means a lot to me, and I sincerely hope it leaves something to you today. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much.